This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. I'm Matt Fanslow, and attention all personnel. Tonight's movie is a holdover from last week and will be shown right after supper, which is also a holdover from last week. That and more after a word from our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training. Do you have a general service tech that you want to grow into your business, but you're lacking the path to get them there? Let NAPA Autotech's apprentice program pave the way. Go to napaautotech.com for more details. All right, when in doubt, trying to find a topic, go to the email. A common question is, what are my favorite online resources, or where do I go for, I guess, information, training, stuff like that? Like service information sites aside, right? I'm not thinking like AllData, MotoLogic, Mitchell, anything like that. I take it more to mean, what entities do I go to for really just training, how-tos, maybe theory, stuff like that. And that's how I took it. And I could be wrong. I was going to do like a top 5. And I started writing down different sites and places and stuff like that, resources. And I just found like I can't do it. And I can't rank them. They all mean a lot to me for different reasons, and they have different purposes and stuff like that. So I've really just kind of randomized them. So I don't want you to think like these are ranked. Whoever's first isn't my favorite. Whoever's last isn't my favorite. These all have a place. And then also the reason I didn't want to do a top 5 is because I was going to, or even a top 10 is because I was going to start kind of categorizing them. And I think you'll see why. Or I could just start out with kind of like dedicated, if you will, corporate training resources. And I know the first one, you're going to be sitting there going like, well, no, duh. They sponsor you. They sponsor your podcast. That is true. There's no denying that. But I would hope that you would believe me when I tell you I use NAPA Autotech training and I like it. And I also have CTI. I used to be able to say CTI/WTI, but we can't do that anymore. I also have CTI, and I like that for different reasons. And they do things a little bit different from one another, but the thing is volume. That's probably the biggest thing, is the volume and the scope of what they cover. And I'm not talking about lab scopes, although they cover those. I'm talking about everything from entry level type of safety training, if you want to say battery maintenance, stuff like that, like intro level theory stuff to help prepare for ASE exams, all the way up to advanced diagnostics and everything in between, brakes, you name it, every system. All right. So that's the appeal of the NAPA Autotech training, and CTI is the scope of it, especially when you want, the rest of the shop involved. Another one I'll put in there along with that, although calling them corporate would be a big stretch. I feel like somewhat along the same lines, at least from the perspective of scope. And that's something called Today's Class. And if you haven't heard of it, I would very much urge you to look into it. And if you can get a trial or try it out for a while, it's really, if this can be used shop wide, it's great because there's a little bit of a gamification in good fun, kind of show the points everyone earns versus one another, and a little bit of competition. They do things a little bit differently though, a little bit. You are given every day, it can be more sometimes, but for the most part, you're given like 5 questions on a system, and there are processes and systems in the background. And I think some AI helping it to tailor the questions and the information to your skill level. And it starts out, I hate to even say where it starts out. The way mine started out was much different than the way some of my colleagues, how theirs started out. But it kind of starts gauging where your level is at, your knowledge level is at, and it tailors the questions towards it with the idea of training you. and you're taking it in every day in little bites, if you will. And I think for a lot of people, that is much easier to accomplish during the day, as well as absorb and maintain and retain, really more than maintain, retain. So it ends up being quite powerful. And then there is more like embedded training that you can elect to take. And there's either links or just kind of learn at your own pace. I hate to say articles so much, but article-esque with some reading. There might be some videos. It's getting more and more well-rounded by the day. And some really, really, really smart people are involved. Rather recently, if you don't know him, Jim Kokonis. And if you don't know him, this is a really, really big deal. And it's a really, really good deal for us. Not that the guys that were there before weren't, because Scott Brown was involved. And hopefully you know who he is. If not, his background was he's a shop owner, very much on the cutting edge of technology, heavily, heavily involved with IATN back in the day. And then he started up Diagnostic Network. So he's involved, or was heavily involved for sure, was heavily involved with today's class. It just makes it a heck of a platform, a heck of a resource for ongoing training. And that kind of, I would say, rounds out like the more corporate type, if that makes sense. I hope you understand where I'm going with that. After that, I don't know how anyone isn't subscribed or regularly purchasing training videos from automotive seminars. I mean, there's no beating around the bush. The number one featured presenter, trainer, educator there is John Thornton. I don't think there's a whole lot of an argument to be made that he is not the best we've had, as far as I know, ever. His training and presenting style is extremely easy to take in, easy to retain, well thought out. He's got a strategy of how he's presenting this to you. He's got a method. I don't even want to be funny and say like a method to his madness, because it's not madness. He works very, very hard to put forth extremely good material. And anyone who has ever seen him in action, whether live or online, I think will attest at least a 99.9% clip that he's the best they've ever seen. And the 0.1% probably need to go get checked out. There's others. Scott Manna, who, you know, anytime you want, I'll rattle off some Scott Manna facts that will blow your mind. He gives Chuck Norris a run for his money, but he's on there. Excellent. Is one of the best. Seriously, one of the best. And then I think you're going to see more and more stuff coming. I think Keith Perkins is now going to be involved. I had Pedro de la Torre, who's, you know, as smart a guy as I've ever met. And I think Tim Jones. Those are the ones I can think of off the cuff. Shame on me for not doing more research, right? But those are the heavy hitters. And that, you know, the first two is reason enough. The first one, John, is enough reason to just go and pay the money. Do it. It's not that expensive. In fact, using the word expense is a horrific term. Investment. Huge dividends. Huge. NAPA Autotech training sessions are being conducted day and night in a town near you. This training caters to every level within your organization, be it a mechanical assistant, a mechanical specialist, a technology specialist, or a driver safety calibration specialist. Imagine a one-stop shop training partner in NAPA Autotech that will lead your team to a path to greatness. Autotech's entry-level Build-A-Tech classes convert the untapped potential of your new hires into money-making mechanical specialists. Autotech's higher-level tech update classes introduce specialists to the world of ever-changing technologies, which prevents your shop from getting technologically stagnant. Remember, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And, turning to the front of the store, the Autotech Service Advisor class is an awesome way to hone your client advocate skill set, ultimately benefiting the customer through an improved vehicle repair experience. But it doesn't stop there. Imagine an electric vehicle class that takes your specialist well past the mundane, yet necessary safety topics. Well, it's here. Autotech's EV Ready training is a week-long curriculum that takes participants through a hands-on experience involving hybrids and electric vehicles. The session kicks off with the use of PPE and proper tooling while touching on required OSHA regulations. Then, the students dive into the lab vehicles to gain knowledge of the common high-voltage components on EV and hybrid vehicles and their function. Attendees will be taken on a path exposing them to different electric vehicle manufacturers to compare component form and location. Additionally, information about Level 1 and Level 2 charging systems will be included, along with a quick look at DC to DC charging. The operation and maintenance of subsystems are explored, including the different modes of Tesla operations, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Commit to taking your business to the next level with NAPA Autotech training. The next one, I've already mentioned his name, Keith Perkins, so let's just go with it. One training. I think I've talked about it before, and Keith's been on the podcast. Super smart guy. He and Liz invest a lot of their time and profits from their businesses for the betterment of the profession, meaning the resources on L1 training, which is there's online videos that Keith makes aimed more in the diagnostics, and he's got stuff going into EPROM and keys and immobilizer. They also host training at their facility. So live in-person training, hands-on training at their facility. So I suppose you could say he's doing this for money, and hopefully he's making some money. I guess I can't promise you that. I hope he is. But my understanding is he's dropped the price to make it more accessible. I think that speaks volumes right there. So L1 training is definitely something I hit regularly, soak in the videos, and hopefully one of these days be able to check out his facility, hang out and attend some of the hands-on courses. A lot of them, I think he might present a little bit. I think Liz does a lot of the presenting on the ADAS stuff. So that would be terrific. Scanner Danner. And I'm not talking about the YouTube channel. I'm talking about Scanner Danner, the website, the premium, pay the money. And he has videos. And he's, okay, truth be told, all right, I have a couple on there. Brian Pollock has a couple on there. I hate to start rattling off names because then I'll freaking forget somebody and feel awful. But if we just talk about the ones Paul does, the greatest, to me, maybe you don't agree, to me, the greatest thing about watching Paul is he has a process. And sometimes the process isn't right or it breaks. And a process that works and has historically worked and an idea of how something works, he goes with it and he records it all. And then when it works, great. Great. Everybody learned something. When it doesn't, it's kind of great. Not because I want to see him struggle. I absolutely do not. I count Paul as one of my best friends. I don't want to see him struggle, but I love the humility. I guess I can't get enough of that. Humility, people being genuine. And that's what he is, genuine. And you get to see it happen as it happened. And the mistake, learning from the mistake, which is a lot of what we do, a lot. And then he comes through and figures it out. And we got to learn what to do, what not to do, probably have a lot of the ideas we thought we had, thoughts, theories, just shot to hell along with him, right? You're probably, or it's happened to me, I'm watching him. I agree. Yep. No, that's what I would do. That's what I think. Golden. Oh, it's not golden. What I thought isn't true. I don't know. I can't get enough of that stuff. I love it. Absolutely love it. Because I think too often, we kind of get lied to. And part of it, I get it for time constraints. But part of it is you end up watching sage on the stage over and over and over. They can do no wrong. They always pick the perfect path. They never make mistakes. They never misdiagnose anything. And you're sitting there going, I'm watching the smartest person I've ever seen. And I can never be like that. And it's probably not true. They might be the smartest person you've ever seen, but they make mistakes. Stuff happens. They make bad assumptions. They make bad calls. It happens. Not that they can afford, whatever the block of time is, especially live in person, instructor-led training, that they can afford to just go through the entire process, mistakes and all, and do you a favor. I think they can hint towards it and maybe a couple times show mistakes or talk about those mistakes, but also in the interest of time, they do have to move along and try to get material to you, which means they got to skip some of the hiccups sometimes. And then I get that. After that, I end up in some groupings, if you will. And The first one I'll go with is YouTube. And there's some YouTube channels that I like, that I watch frequently and enjoy and learn. And again, in no order, I would say it's older. It's got really good content. It's so good. New Level Auto. It's Keith DeFazio when he was running his mobile business, I think in Long Island. He's got some really good content on there. It is so good. I catch myself rewatching them. That is a really good one. Another one is Engineering Explained. It doesn't always pertain to our stuff, but he has a lot of material up there that does. And it's kind of interesting to see and hear how systems work or why certain things are the way they are from a more engineering perspective. And sometimes he can have some math up there, but really, I think he does a marvelous job of breaking it down and explaining it and presenting stuff visually to help. And yeah, I find myself on there frequently. So I get a kick out of watching that. Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. Ivan does a terrific job putting up material, showing us what he does. Super, super smart guy. Really just the thought process. I think quite literally uses essentially the scientific method, and you can watch it as he does it and works through these problems. And I just find him mesmerizing. Like I said, he's got a lot of material up there. Well worth viewing, liking, subscribing. After that, a lot of people will say it as Cuba, but she told me it's Cuba Automotive. And if I said that wrong, I'm sorry, and you can straighten me out. She has a lot of good material, and her thought processes and the way she works through problems. I know the training that she's gone to, and I know the people she's surrounded herself with, and you can see she's taken what she's learned and applies it. And I don't know, I just love that stuff because I feel like a lot of times that's me, that I've gone to these classes. I know these people, I've talked to them. Maybe in the past they helped me with a problem, and now here I am working through a problem, showing that this stuff works. The training works. The education works. I'm evolving. I'm getting better. I'm just watching her, super smart, working through problems. So that's an excellent. Cuba Rodriguez is her name, and I definitely recommend following. After that, my good buddy ASE Mechanics, another really smart guy. I guess I like his enthusiasm, if you will, as he's working through these problems, kind of the wonder of it, just excited to see what am I going to find. And he translates to the camera and the microphone so well. And as much as I can tell from the videos I've seen, and I think I've seen them all, I try to, doesn't really throw people under the bus, which I respect the heck out of. You know, the car ended up there. He's happy about it. He's really excited to figure out or see what the problem is and figure out why it's doing whatever it's doing. And then not trashing whoever sent it to him. And it's something I appreciate. I really do. And like I said, that just the exuberance of it all. You can watch a few of his videos and find yourself kind of pumped to go grab that next vehicle to diagnose, kind of find yourself very excited and motivated, finding yourself and having a lot of wonder. And I want to use that almost in a childlike fashion, in that just innocence to it, if that makes sense. And very excited to see what am I going to find on this car? What could it be? Oh my God, that is cool. If you're like me, it usually ends up not cool, but sometimes you get some really cool stuff. Not as cool as ASE, though. Can't be as cool as ASE. And then really kind of wrapping up the YouTube stuff that I can think of off the cuff. And if you guys want to email me or in the comments, hammer me on the ones I forgot so I can feel bad about it. The last one's Eric the Car Guy. It's one of the few channels I watch that it isn't really strictly diag. He does everything right. There's brake jobs on there, and I get a kick out of it. I get a kick out of his, I guess, personality, and then his methodology, working through the diags. I really like that. And yeah, I find myself on there quite a bit. I think he's been pretty active again. Actually hope to have him on the podcast one of these days. I think that would be really interesting. Diagnostic Network. There's a lot of good info on there. I guess what I find a lot of times being a great resource is if you're signed up with NASTA, which is free, that you can see the SIRs. And a lot of times there's some really, really good info in those SIRs, the responses, be it from other members or the manufacturers or entities like training companies or equipment manufacturers or service providers like tech support. There can be a lot of info in there. I'm almost positive for you to see it, you have to be a member of NASTA. And like I said, it's free. So I know some people have some issues with NASTA and whatever. I'm really not even going to get into it. All I know is if we're looking for resources and it's free, at least the NASTA membership, and I'm a member of Diagnostic Network, I have access to even more info. And that's proved to be a terrific, terrific resource. And then, of course, just people post up problems. There's the responses. There can be absolute gold in there. Some of those sources of gold are Randy Burnclaw. If you're on Diagnostic Network, look up pretty much anything he types. That's the truth. We have to mention IATN. I'm not on there very much anymore with the new stuff in the forums. I definitely don't participate, but I keep my membership because of the stuff in the archives. The amount of absolute geniuses talking about the theories and operations, underlying theory of how things work, it still translates in today. It's the fundamentals. It's a terrific resource. Absolutely terrific. Again, those names, a lot of the same names that you see on Diagnostic Network were on IATN. Again, Randy Burnclaw, Jim Kemper, Matt Ragsdale, George G. Just super, super smart guys. John Riggle, Robert Schrader. I'm doing it again where I'm naming names and freaking out. I'm forgetting people. Danny Iwama, Harvey Chan. I mean, that would be no excuse to forget Harvey. Reading all their old posts and responses to posts. So much can be gleaned. That's worth the price of admission. Even if you never look at anything more modern, the archives with those guys and so many more. Keith Lawyer. Man, if I keep going, I'll be here all night just trying to think up names and I'm rattling them off. I know I've forgotten some big ones there, which is pretty awful. And now the last one is kind of a group again, or, like YouTube, there's multiple things involved. And I got to level with you. It's Facebook of all the frickin' things, social media, Facebook groups. There's a lot of them. Not all of them are that great. Some of them are awesome. And somewhat tailored, quite a few of them tailored to whatever it is, like systems, or even as an example, there might European technicians, right? So European vehicles, Automotive Insight, Automotive or AutoMD. There's groups for Immobilizer. There's groups for EEPROM. There's groups for, I think, wheel alignment. I think there's groups for transmissions. It's endless, and you have to kind of sort through it. Groups for ADAS, groups for programming, J2534 programming, for beginners, for in the USA, for not in the USA. There's so many. So you end up kind of having to sift through it. You have to join a bunch of them, answer the questions to get in there. Those that you don't participate in, you might get booted out of. And those that if you tend to be negative, you might get booted out of. Or you don't do your research. You're just asking questions, just looking for bullets. You might get booted. And those often, the ones that'll boot people, typically are the better ones. Typically. The ones that just let everything fly, they can be entertaining. They can be quite entertaining. They're not always the best resources. There's other ones that the Automotive Forum Exchange, known good only. It's essentially a living database where techs of their own accord upload waveforms to be downloaded and used to compare to what you have, the number one being cam versus crank correlation. There's, his name needs to be mentioned, Ray, and I may mispronounce your last name, and if you're listening, I apologize, but I think it's your go. What a freaking resource. What a terrific resource he is. How much he's helped. It's unbelievable. Hopefully, those of you that he has helped, you will bend over backwards to help him back. And that's the point. Like the Automotive Waveform Exchange, that's kind of what drives it is if you're asking for help, that you will be one of the first to help when you can and looking to help. That's what makes it work. And I think there's others for the same, but they end up being terrific resources for information. In this case, or at least with the Automotive Waveform Exchange, the known good waveforms to use to compare. And there's so many other groups where you can upload waveforms and people check them out or scan data. And the idea being, we're not trying to provide you silver bullets. We're not trying to give you a fish, right? We're not trying to give you a fish. We're trying to teach you how to fish. We're trying to learn how to fish, right? A man who's given a fish eats for a day. A man who's taught how to fish eats for a lifetime. Same thing. And so check these things out. I highly recommend getting involved in all of them. Some of them carry subscription costs. If you're a tech, hopefully the shop will take care of that for you. It benefits them greatly. It benefits you to invest your time and effort. I guess all of these, and probably ones I forgot, all of these I'm just extremely grateful for. I'm extremely grateful I have the access to them, the ease of access to them, and just feel like they continue to make me better and better. If only I was as good as half of you, but I'll just keep plugging along, and that's all we can do, right? If I forgot any, please let me know. You could email me at mattfanslowpodcast@gmail.com. You can keep firing questions at me. They actually help a lot with ideas. If you want to be on the podcast, please let me know and try to get you on and find out more about you. And with that, I'd like to thank our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training, and the Aftermarket Radio Network for making this all possible. And until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Matt Fanslow, diagnosing the aftermarket A to Z on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Matt on your favorite listening app. He's very interested in what you have to say. Let him know what you'd like him to cover and come on the show. Matt is all for advancing the aftermarket. Find Matt Fanslow on social media and connect or on aftermarketradionetwork.com.